What is up, guys? We are back this week, motivation everything, for another expert interview. I appreciate all of you that hop on the live, all of you that watch the replay. As you guys know, I have the privilege of bringing in experts every single week that I get to interview live in front of all of you. One thing I want you guys to do is, if you are on the live right now, go ahead and drop live below in the comment section. Let me know who's on here, who's tuning in, who's watching. If you watch the replay, drop replay below and let me know who watched the replay. And then one more thing I want to ask you guys is drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. I really love seeing where people are tuning in from, whether it's around the world or the United States, and just seeing the different locations you guys are at. It's something that I get super excited about. Today's interview is awesome. I got a really, really, really sharp guy that I've had the privilege of getting to know a little bit. We've had a few conversations, and I'll tell you guys something. Every time I talk to Chaz, I walk away with a page full of notes. Like, he is a wealth of knowledge, incredible guy, and I'm honored to have him here with us. So let me introduce him to you guys so you know him a little better. Chaz Wolfe is a high-performing serial entrepreneur, a studied, accomplished, and proven sales professional and coach, an operations and process maximizer, and an award-winning business mind. And I can attest to that. Chaz is known to push the limits of work ethic, mindset, and results. As a dynamic leader, consultant, and speaker, he has helped both domestic and international organizations achieve massive levels of growth and success. Guys, help me welcome Chaz. Let's go.
Happy to be here, man. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, man, a little bit there. You got so many accolades. I had to cheat and look at it,
Yeah, no big deal, man. I appreciate that. Those were kind words.
Absolutely. Well, we're honored to have you, Chaz. So, tell us a little bit about Chaz, man. We want to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, man. Okay, so personally, I'm in the Midwest. You said drop where you're from, so hashtag KC. Love KC, Kansas City, home of the Chiefs, right?
Yes, sir.
So, I grew up just a couple hours east of here in Columbia, and my wife and I moved here 2008 or so, and got into sales and got into business pretty early on at 24. But we can get to some of that. I grew up in church and love the involvement in men's ministry and just discipleship and that type of personal side of me, I guess. I'm married 12 years. I've got 3 beautiful children, 2 daughters and a son. My little son's like, I think he's 18 months here in a couple of days. So he's kind of like finally that squishy, yet I can throw them around and they won't get hurt phase,
Right.
So yeah, man, it's good. I have a blessed life.
Absolutely, man. So, Chaz, what's your story, brother? Tell us a little more in depth. I want you to get vulnerable. What's the story of Chaz Wolfe? We want to hear it all, man. The ups, the downs, the trials, the tribulations, everything that got you to where you're at now, teaching others what you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so grew up single mom family. I think that, the unfortunate fact is that that's a fairly prominent thing.
I can relate.
That doesn't necessarily determine our success, just like any other circumstantial statistic, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, growing up, it was my sister and I and my mom. In fact, give you a fun little fact: my mom and my sister, and then it was my grandmother and my aunt's 3 girls. All of our cats and dogs were all female, so it was just me, bro. So me and all the ladies, I guess. And so growing up in that environment, I grew up really, really fast. You can probably relate to that if you were in that scenario, if you're listening to this. But I grew up really fast, but I look at that now as like I wouldn't change that, because I was put into places where I had to make decisions with money or taking care of myself or providing for myself, or just going and getting something maybe that I wanted that maybe there was no other way to get it other than just to go get it, myself. And so some of those things were building blocks to who I am today. I would say the other pieces of building blocks would be, from my mom specifically, as a single mom, 2 and 3 jobs every single like everything that I can remember every year. You know, she currently has a full-time job now, and then operates one of my pieces of real estate on the side. So she's always been a hustler, you know? And so I have.
That's where you got it from.
That's where I got it from, man. Yes. And so she taught me, you know, that if you want something, you got to go get it. No one's going to give it to you. And, you know, and it's okay to reach for more. Right. And so, you know, from seeing that and seeing her work, you know, extra hard to make sure that not only did we have everything that we needed per se, but sometimes there was times where we got more, you know, like I played competitive basketball from like 9 all the way up to college. And there were times I know that we probably went with not as much, but she was able to buy me the basketball shoes, you know, like she made sacrifices is my point, to be able to make sure that, yeah, she totally made it happen. So anyway, that's kind of like the childhood, if you will, as an entrepreneur from a young age. I was, you know, selling the fundraiser stuff. I loved doing the fundraiser stuff, you know, or mowing grass or doing landscaping. I was working construction before legally I was able to, you know. Maybe that.
Wait, how old were you when you officially like had your first job, you would say, even if it was before you were supposed to? How old were you? I'm curious.
12.
Dude, I did like yard work and stuff from like 9 to like 12, and at 13 I did corn detasseling. So yeah, man.
Oh. That's awesome. Yeah. So you can understand.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn some things early on, you know, that really make a difference later. Now looking back on it, you know, all my friends over the summer would go to the pool and get a tan, and I had to take my shirt off while working concrete to get a tan. And so, but either way, hey, I came back to school with a tan. We're good to go,
hey, same result except for you made money.
It's true. It's true. And I kind of felt that way about college too. I'm not anti-college. My wife went to college. She's a dental hygienist, super sharp as well, and I love her enthusiasm for what she does. And I'm glad we have dental hygienists and other professions that need to go to college. But for me, it was a matter of jumping into sales and learning a skill and a you know, an avenue, a vehicle that could make me a lot more money than the average college graduate, and I didn't have to pay to go to school, you know.
100%. No, I'm in the same boat. We have so much in common. It's crazy. Like I can't even believe in some of the conversations we had before this, we didn't talk about that. Women, single mom, like raised with all that, working young. So that's cool. So tell us the story as you went through that. Like, where did it take you? Because I know you've done some cool stuff.
Yeah. So I got married at 21. I would say even in that process there, I mean, I dated her for 3 years, but at 18, I was like, I knew I met her. I knew what I wanted. I would have married her then if she wasn't in high school. You know?
Right.
So
you knew.
We got married, you know, young, but then that allowed me to do what I felt like was like, we just got started with life early. Like we could like off to the races, you know, we weren't doing the dating thing while I was building something. It was like, we did it. And then together we've grown up together building our life, you know? So jumping into sales and sales management and being extremely successful in those things. And then always knowing that I wanted to be a business owner. And so I would consider myself an optimistic opportunist, looking for opportunity always. I've looked at dozens of businesses before buying my first business. And so you name it, I probably looked at it. I think that there's value that I look back on, not knowing what I was doing, of just learning and processing. And even though I was being young and I wanted to like make something happen, I was anxious. I wanted to make a move. I wanted to get into business. I was
hungry
to pursue something, you know. But at the same time, there's wisdom in making sure that not like all your ducks are in a row, because those never get in a row, but
right,
making sure that you have building blocks that are in place to be able to, you know, make sure that when you make a move, you're successful. And so for me, it was I was 24 years old. I came across a franchise that was for sale and purchased that first franchise. And within 4 years, we had 7 locations in 3 states, in different cities in those states, about 40, 50 employees. And that was like the first few years, you know, that was years ago, but you know, that's probably 9 years ago now when I first started that journey. And so in the middle of all that, it's like, okay, now I'm using my team building skills and my sales skills and, you know, my grit, my grind, you know, from my mom, the hustle of just trying to put all this together. I'm learning the business. I'm learning business in general, learning the edible business, learning my, team building with my people, learning the product, growing into new cities. And so that was like a really fun, expanding time. And since then we have launched into some real estate and then online now. That's how you and I met. Obviously I do, sales training. We've got an online course, and I do business consulting for folks that are, really trying to go to the next level with strategic planning and implementation, team building, stuff like that.
Love it. How many franchises do you guys own currently?
Yeah, so we currently have 5. Got up to a total of 7. We were in Kansas City, Wichita, and in Pensacola, Florida, believe it or not.
Wow, man. So you're all over.
Yep. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, even in that world, of like, well, why would you make the jump? Especially from like the Midwest, Kansas City, Wichita to Florida. And my thought on life, really, not just this scenario, but life was, why not? Not why, but why not?
I don't think a lot of people ask that enough.
Yeah. For me, I thought, well, shoot, it's Florida. I'm from Kansas City. There's no beach here. Why would I not want to go to Florida? And now that's talking to somebody, from somebody who I've been to the beach maybe 2 times in Pensacola. So it's not like, that's not why I bought the store. I bought the store because I'm all about growth and expansion. And if I'm not growing and pushing and shoving my way into the marketplace, then something's not right on the inside of me. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So I'm sure there's probably people that can relate to that,
Yeah. So beyond that, so you mentioned briefly that you just launched your course. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so 6-week course that literally breaks down the entire sales process. You being a sales process guy, I know that you can relate to being in sales is part, communication. It's part business mind of like understanding like how to solve a problem. And then it's, part mechanical, like how do I walk down a certain step or certain path to be able to get the best results, which is really what business is, really.
100%.
But in the sales course specifically, it's like, okay, how do you take a prospect from the very beginning, from a direct cold call, and go all the way to closing the deal? And whether we're talking about a couple $100 deal on an event, or we're talking about, an $80 fruit basket, like my franchises, or we're talking about a couple $1,000 course or a $100,000 advertising contract, like I've done in the past, so it really is a process, and it's a duplicatable process. So mechanically you have to understand, okay, what do I need to do in order to be successful in sales? I have to take a certain path. And now within the certain path, some of it is knowing who you are, knowing how you communicate, knowing your prospect, how do they communicate, right? How do you modify yourself to be able to deliver the information in the best way possible for them, right? Because it's about them, it's about their problem, their need, and you matching, your product to their need. And I think that that's become more, well known in the sales world today. I think, sales from years past would be like, just sell, get the deal, sell them at any cost. That's where like that icky sales.
That's why the industry has such a bad rap, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's one thing that like I live to go against that grain, and I can tell you're someone that's like that too, because sales are necessary. Transactions are necessary, and salespeople do solve people's problems, but it's the way that they do it. So I think that's awesome. But keep going, brother.
The like you mentioned a couple of things there that I think are worth noting a little further is that everything has to do with sales. Everything. I mean, I was just describing sales, and I was like, really, that's business, though. Really, that's life. Like when I wanted to take an opportunity. So I last year, in between a couple of me growing a couple locations, I had an opportunity to go work for Grant Cardone in Florida.
Big name.
Yeah, big name. And I don't try to swing that around of like, oh, look at me or anything, but I had an opportunity. I had spoken with one of his guys, Jared Glant, for a couple of years, and he was building an ad agency, and it just made sense for me to help, come down and run that business. And so all that to say, though, is that sales is everything. It's not just business, it's communication. I had to sell my wife on moving to Florida, right? Our family's here. our everything is here, right? And so being able to sell her on that, or if it could just be, where are we going to go to dinner tonight, or are we going to do X, Y, and Z? Like, it's all sales. It's communication with another human that's different than you, and you have a desire or a want. They have a desire or a want, and it's like, how do we get those to get together?
No, absolutely. And you also mentioned into like the system and processes, once you create something that works, right? And it's duplicatable, then it's really refining that, right? Like how do I make it better? So I know you and what you do, you're probably pretty big on that. So like talk a little more into somebody who say maybe they just started a business, right? And sales are huge in a business. Why does business exist? To create a client or a customer. And they offer a product or they offer a service, and maybe they have some transactions, but they learn how to duplicate it. But what advice would you give to a business owner on how to refine that and make it better?
Yeah. So first off, in a business, like you said, sales is literally everything. You don't have a business if you don't have sales, right? And so there's so many times that I've come across somebody that's trying to launch something and they're stuck on the graphic, right? They're stuck on the customer experience. It's like, I get it. Like I'm all about excellence, like excellence in doing things the way that they need to be done in order for it to bring actual value. That's a huge thing for me. And it should be for most business owners, but you have to, you have to go get the client first.
Right.
You don't have a client to service, then you have no excellence or value to bring, so sales is everything. And so as a new business owner, what I would say, if you're, a retail franchise, like some of my locations, it's like, you need to go get people to ring the phone or to come to your location or go to your website, right? For an online business or a consultant, you need to drum up conversations to be able to get onto sales calls. You need to have a skill set to be able to communicate with people, to be able to find out what their pain is and be able to identify what their issues are. So that way you can then show them how your product then solves that problem for them. And you have to be able to communicate that in a way that makes sense for them, to where they think that they're going to get more value than what they're paying you. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. Right? So that's, as a new person, that's what you need to do. You need to repeat, like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And you need to do it so much and so often and so big and burly that you've got so many clients where you're like, oh crap, I have to now go hire 10 client success people because I've got so many people, and I'm now dropping the ball on my value piece or my excellent piece, and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go hire. But I had to drum up the chaos first. I had to go sell.
Yeah, I think a lot of people miss that. You mentioned something really interesting that I want to pull back out. You talked about how people get stuck so much on like the logo and the small details. It blows my mind. I'd like to talk into this a little bit. I'm big on action. Like I live my life by better done than perfect. And yep. I see so many people maybe that even want to start a business or have a business, and they're so obsessed about trying to make something perfect that like a logo even. I started Motivation Everything and owned the LLC long before I had a logo. I don't know if a lot of you guys know that. I did not have a logo, but I knew the value of taking action, of getting people to know, like, and trust me long before a logo ever mattered. And I think that I would like to talk a little more into that, because there's a lot of people that hold back their potential, I feel like, because, I remember there's a time I had a coach I worked with, and I'll share this real quick, to make a lot of videos online like I do now and like doing this. And I remember talking with someone, I was like, I really want this camera. It was like $1,600, right? But I didn't want to make the investment. And I was like, oh, I need the perfect camera. I need the perfect lighting, which I only just now got studio lighting like 3 days ago. I didn't have a professional mic and didn't have a professional camera. And I thought I needed all of these things to do what I wanted to do to build the business I wanted to build. And I had a mentor look at me and he's like, you're just making excuses, justifying why you're not doing it of an iPhone. Yup. And he's like, then just use that. And so I share that, and you talk more into that. How often do we see people obsessed with these little things that don't matter instead of just doing it?
Yeah. So there's what you're identifying for the new person is action rules everything, right? Mm-hmm. if you get stuck on the version 1 of whatever it is, and then it doesn't bring value to anybody or nobody wants it, then you've wasted all your time. So there's a place there of you're trying to serve your customer and you're trying to be able to build something long term, but you can't get to the long term. We think of the end result and we're like, well, I want to get to that, but that's not how it happens. It happens version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4. All you're seeing is version 8 of your coach or your mentor or someone that you just found online or that you see across the the shopping center, like whatever your business is. You can't compare to someone else's version 8. You have to get started with version 1 and be able to serve your customers at version 1 and then take whatever feedback that is or even of yourself and just upgrading the system. Now you're talking about systems, so you can take action to generate revenue, and that's never going to go away. In fact, you want to pour as much kerosene on that fire as you possibly can, right? Because that's what's going to grow the business. But within the growth of the business, now you can start creating systems operationally, marketing wise, sales wise. You can create not just SOPs, but like, this is what we do. This is the system. This is a duplicatable thing that can repeat the process that's going to bring the result that we're looking for. And that's where you get into the honing or the maybe like dialing in down to the logo, right? Or be able to, connect with certain little pieces of the business that make more sense long term. It's like you can't even think like that until you've got enough revenue to play, right? Because that's all play. Yeah. It's not play like from like you're not taking it seriously, but those are all secondary things. You have to go create the group. You got to go create the revenue. You got to go create a business. A business is not just an idea. A business is not just a people that come together and talk. It's money exchanged for value, period.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. And I'm big on action, and it's crazy. If we think about some of the biggest brands out there, their logos have changed a few times. Oh, yeah. As they version 1, 2, 3, 4, they've continued to get better, but they were able to do that because they took the action necessary, built out the systems, the processes, and served their customers and solved their problems. So I think that's such a key thing in business. I know you're big on business strategy and systems and processes. That's something that like Chaz Wolfe speaks into. So tell us a little more down that rabbit hole of how important that is, and maybe give us like some tips that you could drop on the live for people that are in that role right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So within like what we do for our business consulting clients, we do like a full evaluation. We're going to take a look at your operations, your marketing, your sales, the structure of your team, your leadership, like structure, how your business is set up, who's meeting with whose role, like, is that super clear in the org chart, like all the basics. Right. And then we're going to do strategic planning, which I'll get to here in a second. And then we're going to do implementation. Like, how do we actually take all this stuff that we've talked about and not be just like any other consultant and say, hey, here you go. But who are we going to assign these roles to? Who's going to actually go do this stuff, and how are they going to go do it? How are we actually going to go get more sales? What's the process of training that team? What's the process of removing some of the operational inefficiencies to be able to streamline how your operation is actually happening? So all of that is like big picture, right? But for me, all of that starts with the strategic why. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing, right? And I did a Facebook Live earlier last week about time management, but I tied even the time management back to the why, because anything that I'm going to do with my time and my calendar should run through the filter of, does it get me what I want? And so my why, my big motivation, whether that be, influence or impact or money or legacy. I'm a big legacy guy. Like, I desire my grandchildren to do something so big that I haven't even thought about it. I'm a pretty big thinker. But I want them to do something with what I've created, and then my children have taken from there, that they take it and it's like, I haven't even like, bro, it's so big that I can't even think about it. So big, right? That's what wakes me up and gets me freaking fired up in the morning, is my grandchildren doing something that I haven't even thought of. So you have to be able to know what that is for you, and then through the filter, your time management, of course, is what I was talking about the other day, but your strategic planning. What am I doing today for my business? Who's on my team? Who am I hiring next? How do I need to grow? I had a client earlier today that I was on the phone with. It's like, look, you've got 20 people and you're doing, 1.2 million. if you had double, what do you think your revenue would be?
Double that, 2.4.
And it's not like, super easy math like that, but basically, and it's like away from thinking I don't want to hire people because I'm like afraid to grow, or I'm afraid to, and not that he was necessarily, but it's just an easy way to go, how do I grow the business? It's like, I need to invest in teams and people and learning how to manage and be able to plan. But what do I want? Do I want 2.4 million? Because if I don't, then there's no sense in hiring any more people.
Right. It's got to tie back to that why and what that vision is. I like how you use the word filter, how I put it through a filter, and that everything ties back through that filter to why I do it in the first place. I hope you guys are taking notes, because that was a gold nugget right there. And I think, we've all, a lot of us, not all of us, but if you've heard Simon Sinek, and, he talks about start with why, how empowering that is. It's so important to know why you do what you do, why your business exists. Why do you get out of bed every day? So like when you have that and you have a big, wanting to leave a legacy like Chaz here, that's a pretty big freaking why. So Chaz is going to wake up every day with passion and authority and do what he had. And that's why how old are you?
33.
You know what I mean? How old again? Sorry, I missed it.
33.
You're 33 and you already own 5 franchises, real estate, built an online course, and coach people for high ticket. I mean, that's incredible, man. Like, that's incredible. But I know why you're as successful as you are, because now I know why you get out of bed every day.
Right.
And I hope the viewers listening to this and that watch the replay take away, if nothing else, what I just said there. Because when that why is big enough, like what Chaz has, you will go make it happen. But man, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I just had to say that.
No, thank you for the clarification piece, because it's an amazing thing when you know that. And it doesn't have to necessarily be, I think a lot of people get caught up in like, well, maybe I'm not that forward thinking, right? Look, it could be as simple as paying rent. Like, I don't know where you are, right? I was in that place. I can remember being in high school. That's why I worked full time while I was in high school. And for me, it was because I needed to fill up my gas tank. That was about as far as my vision went.
That was your why at that point. And it can be that, like, I think that until you, through a growth process, I think it gets bigger personally. Because I remember back to same thing. I just wanted a roof over my head, food in my belly, and gas in my gas tank at one time in my life. And you know what? I got those things because that's what I wanted.
Totally, 100%. Yeah, and so the why can be tied back to really whatever that is for you. But you're right, you can grow that over time. You can grow that motivating or that definitive purpose, as Think and Grow Rich would talk about. I mean, you have that thing that you just burn for, and when you do that, and then for me, like, I have to be able to kind of couple in here my faith, because for me, it's like, yes, I want legacy. Yes, I want, in order for me, it's not necessarily nice things, although everyone likes nice things. For me, it's like, I want resources. So that way my children and my grandchildren can have the resources then to compound over time and then, so forth and so on. But for me, it has something to do with faith also, because like everything that I've done, I've worked really, really, really hard. Like, while most of my buddies were partying in college and paying someone to teach them something, I was working sales and a part-time job or building a business, working 18 hours a day. Valentine's Day in the world of edible arrangements, I don't sleep for like 3 days straight. I've done that for 9 years. Like, there's nothing in here that I could say that I haven't worked hard. However, I have done all those things, but I've also had what I felt like is favor, just of like a blessing, because I can't just, hey, look what I've done, like it's both and. As I'm working with, the greater purpose, the greater plan, if you will. And so when you find yourself in an alignment with that, for me, it's knowing who I am. It's knowing my identity. It's knowing that, like, I'm a son, and that my father gives good gifts and that he's got a good plan, but that doesn't mean that I'm just gonna wait and wait for him to roll out the red carpet for me. It's no, he wants me to toil the ground with him. He wants me to reap the harvest with him. He wants me to feel the burn of a bad harvest with him, so that I can learn what those things feel like, and so that I can know how to deal with that, and how I can know how to teach my family and others, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'd even go one step further, that I truly believe that God created, there will never be another Chaz Wolfe. There will never be another Cody Cottle. There was none before you. There will be none after you. Your gifts, your talents, who you are as a man was made, in God's image. And
Yeah.
I believe that I believe my belief system, it's our responsibility to take all of these experiences in, the earthly world to hone in our skills, learn what they are, master them, and then give them away to the world. And I think that's personally, I think that's our calling on this planet. I think everything we want comes through doing that.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's the parable of the talents, right? I wanted to be faithful, and I've had plenty of people ask, over the years, of why I work so hard, or why, after making the first million, or after making however much in a first year, or whatever, it's like, why do you still do? Or, I've got things set up right now to where I really wouldn't have to work if I didn't want to. Like, why would you not spend all day with your kids? It's like, I love my kids, I do, but there's more to be done, more that I'm called to, other than just being a dad. And I'm not saying that being a dad is less than, because I'm definitely want to be dad. I want to be husband, and I want to be, helper at, men's ministry or whatever. But there's also other things that I'm called to, that are going to reach either more people or create things for systems. Look, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to teach my children something that then they're going to teach their grandchildren something, and then they're going to cure cancer or something. Right. It's my responsibility to make it happen, so that it happens, and so that whatever that is down the road happens.
But that's big vision. And you talked about earlier, some people aren't as forward thinking. I truly think that that's fine, and a lot of people aren't. But once the mind is stretched, it never goes back. Yeah. And I was a very simple thinking person at one point in my life. And the more I learned, the more I got around people like yourself, the more I expanded, the more I read books, the more I invested into Cody, the more I realized how much is really possible, which is truly, I believe, anything. And so I think, do you think people that have grander vision essentially do more with their life than people that think small? I'm curious.
I think you're asking two questions, right? You're asking, is it important to be forward thinking? And I would say that naturally some are more forward thinking than others, right? So there are corners, like I'm reading the biography of John D. Rockefeller. Like him, hate him, whatever you feel about him, he could see around the corner when people were, drilling for oil, and the need to fill the entire United States with light. That's where kerosene was born. Like, how do I refine this to create kerosene to light all of America at night? Because before that, it was sundown, the day is over, right? And so he could see around a corner that no one else could. And so we all have to stretch ourselves in that way, to your point, which once you're stretched, it's like a rubber band. It's impossible to go back. Once you make a certain amount of money, it's way weird to go back. Like, wait a second. It doesn't mean that you have to spend that money or buy a nicer car or a bigger house. Although, that's fine, but maybe it's your impact goes somewhere, giving it away, or it's for your children in the future, or whatever. For as far as I'm concerned, it's going into real estate, because that's all it is just dirty green paper. Like, it's just a resource, it doesn't have to control anything that we're doing. However, it's something that you're thinking ahead on. You're seeing around the corner. What am I doing with my time now? Putting it through that filter of, is this going to get me what I want? And if it's not, then I'm super disciplined to be like, no, I'm not doing that. Or if I'm saying yes, then I'm like, all in, let's go.
That goes back to, and I'm going to ask those questions, Jade, by the way, but that goes back to knowing your identity and protecting your identity too, which I absolutely love. So once you establish that for yourself, with the people I work with and the clients I work with, that's something that's very intentional for us, is establishing that identity and protecting it at all costs, and making sure that everything you do is in alignment with it. So I think that's powerful, man. So I do want to get to these questions. They've been up here for a minute. Sure. So I'm going to throw them up here, and then I'll kind of let you answer them.
Okay.
So this is from, I believe, Jade Martin.
Mom of a 1-year-old. Okay, so first off, blessings to you for being a mom. Seriously. I watch my wife and what she does, and then even thinking about my mom being a single mom, I just have no idea how it was possible. However, the energy that you're asking for comes from the passion of the purpose. Like, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, so it pushes past all uncomfortable moments, whether it be the sales call that I don't want to make, or in the sales call asking for the business when that's uncomfortable, or whether it's following up with someone, or whether it's creating a new product that I'm nervous about, but I gotta like do all this stuff and people are kind of ridiculing me, and none of that matters if you're burning on the inside. So what I would say to you as far as energy, I would say go read Think and Grow Rich and find your definiteness of purpose. The thing that literally burns on the inside of you. And that could just be you being mom. Not just, but that could be you being mom. And you could be burning to be mom. And when you're tired, or when your baby's upset, or even sick, or screaming, or whatever, you're just filled with unbelievable compassion, patience, love for not only your child, but just the other people in your life. Like, they're gonna look at you and be like, wow, how are you mom, and this and that, and then when you come to me, you always got to smile. How is that possible? And you're like, because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm mom, or I'm whatever it is.
Yeah, no, dude, that's bomb. She did throw this up here too, which is in alignment with it. What helps push you? We talked about your why, but when you're burnout, what helps push you to keep going? That goes in line with that definite of purpose.
Yeah. And I would say that I don't know if I've ever experienced burnout. That sounds crazy, but there's been times where I have desired transition or something bigger, right? Because I've accomplished whatever I needed to do in that area. Like, okay, I was a sales rep for a company, and I did that for so long, and it was like, okay, I climbed the mountain. What's next? Okay, now become a sales manager. Okay, build a team, grow people, be the top manager. Okay, climb that mountain. What's next? Now we're going to take people from your team and make new teams. And so we want you to build up leaders. And so every time we take a leader, we're going to take another person off your team, and you have to then build your team again and again and again. And it's like, okay, you just got to find new challenges, new goals, bigger picture stuff. And so part of it is you don't get burnt out if you're doing the right thing. Number two is when you get to that place of like, not burnout, but like, I'm done, or I've climbed this mountain. Before you get there, you have to realize where you're going and how quick that you're going to get there, and you have to reset the target.
Ooh.
Right? So you have to reset the target.
How you just said, I really liked what you just said, both those things. You don't get burnt out if you're doing what you should be doing, and then knowing when you're nearing the target to reset another one.
Yeah.
Dude, if you guys aren't taking notes on this, that's some bold, Chaz. Because, like, I truly believe that if you're doing what you're called to do, you're harnessing what you were given and you're using it. If you love what you do and you do what you love, burnout doesn't – I've never experienced it either, doing what I love. It's not there. So I think internally one has to ask themselves questions if they're experiencing that, man, is this what I really want to do with my life? Because if you're not passionate, if you don't wake up out of bed every day excited to do what you're doing, then it's probably not in alignment with the identity that we've been speaking into. Now, I know we all have bills. We all got to, we have responsibilities. You have kids. You have to feed your kids. So this is a tough thing to talk about to people, especially if you have people that depend on you. So for a lot of people, they would say, it's great. I'd love to go do what I love, but I have bills to pay. And I'm curious your input on that. What advice would you give that person?
Totally. I'm glad you led it to that. I was going to take it there anyway, because it literally is the Achilles heel to so many people, because they're stuck on, well, I'm not really doing what I love. And so, but I can't, because what I love is, playing with puppies all day. It's like, you can't necessarily make money like that unless you own a doggy daycare, So unless you're willing to go do that, then you got to find other ways, right? So for me, being in sales, I don't have I do professional personality profile assessments, and like how to modify yourself and like how to really grow and change. Like I do that from a professional standpoint, but for me, I don't have like the sales like natural tendencies. For me, it's way more technical, way more in my brain. Like I would not have hired me, if that makes sense, if I'm looking to hire a salesperson, okay? With all that being said, though, I had to do something that I didn't necessarily love, of talking to people on the phone. I know I probably seem maybe energetic here on this interview, but I'm a learned extrovert. I'm not a natural extrovert. I'm a learned extrovert, right? Well, you can learn optimism. You can learn how to talk to people. You can learn how to dissect code if you want to. Like whatever you want to do, you can go do. And so for me, it was I needed to learn how to communicate so that I liked it more. It wasn't that because I like to talk to people, I'd gotten to sales. It was I wanted to make a certain amount of money because that was associated to my why. And I knew that sales or business was the only way at 21, 22, 23 that I could make $100,000. And I needed to do that. And I needed to do it right now. And so I had to learn how to communicate. I had to learn the sales process. I had to learn how to soften my edges and not be so direct and blunt and rude, right? Because that's what I was at the beginning, right? So when you have that person who's like stuck in that, like, well, I don't necessarily love what I do every day. The actual activity of what you're doing doesn't necessarily have to be the like, oh my gosh, I want to play with puppies all day, right? What you're doing can be part of the plan to get you what you want. The what you want piece is what burns. The what you want piece is what gives you the passion, right? So making phone calls necessarily isn't the most exciting thing for me and a lot of people that are in sales. But when I was a sales rep, literally the top of the charts, like huge difference between me and number two, I was making hundreds, if not thousands of calls more than the next person. And I had already beat them. I had already made more sales. I had already made more money, but I was still making more phone calls. Well, it wasn't because I liked more phone calls. It was because I wanted.
How bad you wanted it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's crazy is a lot of people, they don't realize on the other side of that thing that they hate doing, if it's in alignment with what they want and that why, then you just do it. I guess it's maybe we've developed through growing up single moms, this and that. We understand and have the work ethic. Hey, man, like I've done that, dude. I've cold called 100 a day when I was only required to make 30 because I knew, well, if I do over 3 times this, then I'm going to make 3 times what I projected for myself income-wise. And that will do this for me, which will change my life, which will get me closer to where I want to go. Totally. So I think how bad does someone really want it has to be a motivator. I hate to use this example, but I'm going to use it. It's kind of like if I took your child and I threw him over on a skyscraper on the other side in a burning building. And I said, the only way you're getting your child is if you make 100 cold calls right now. You're making 100 cold calls without a doubt, without hesitation. It's happening. What changed? Why?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, man. I think that, the every day I think what people have this, and we talked about it right before the interview, like people have this end goal in mind, but they forget that it's building blocks every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year that get you there. You don't all of a sudden retire with passive income that's in the millions. Like, sorry, it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you bought. That's that may or may not be the case for you.
Yeah, that's fire, man. So I want to go into another subject that I know that you're pretty fond of, and I really want you to talk a little bit into knowing yourself. Yeah. So we can break this down professionally, and I'm also going to give you a little bit on the personal, maybe spiritual level. Okay, so professionally, you have to know how you tick, right? You got to know what you naturally, like how you go about your business, how your cake is baked, if you will, right? And if you, like, first off, you have to understand that you have a cake and that it's baked. That doesn't mean that you can't modify or change yourself, but there are certain things that you do or that you don't do, and it's on purpose because it's who you are. So for me, like getting into sales, I'm not this big extrovert that just loves talking to people. At the end of the day, after 300 cold calls, I was exhausted, right? Because it took more effort for me than it would maybe somebody who's super extroverted to talk all day on the phone. And so you have to be able to know who you are, and whether that be just, a personality assessment or, knowing yourself, but you have to know why you do the things that you do naturally, right? And then you have to be honest with yourself and look yourself in the mirror and be able to determine, okay, is that a strength or is it a weakness? And probably it's both, right? If we're honest with ourselves, our strength is our weakness and our weakness is our strength. And we have to be able to be humble enough to go, okay,
Like, I appreciate the fact that you said earlier that I speak with authority, right? I've worked on that. Like, I want to speak with authority. I want to be direct. I want to be, like, this guy's freaking going somewhere. But at the same time, I got to make sure I don't mow people over, right? I want to make sure I don't, like, bulldoze so hard and charge that people are, like, swept away in the what
you
happened?
intimidate them. Yeah, sometimes that can happen. You work so hard on that it comes across the wrong way. So there's a balance.
So you have to have the humility, number one, to be able to know you. Humility leads you to go, okay, well, who really am I? How do I really operate? Am I sharp? Like, am I a sharp communicator? Like, I'm blunt. I don't say things with enough information. Do I typically try to hide if confrontation comes? Do you reach out to people? Like, do you try to build relationships, or are you the guy that's like, everybody has to come to you? So, like, just knowing yourself professionally helps you then sharpen the other side of the sword, because that one side is the sharp side, and you're hammering that one side and it's getting you results, but it's the other side. You could also hit the rock with that side, but you can't right now because it's dull, because it's your weakness. And you're not being honest with yourself to be able to modify those things. So for me, the biggest modification that I've had to make is, how do I learn how to communicate in a way that's encouraging? How do I bring people with me? How do I, rally the troops and not just say, forget y'all, you can do your thing. I'm going to the top and you can come with me, or you don't have to, whatever. So that's just an example. Now, spiritually, who you are, it's like, man, now we're talking about the good stuff, like who you are, who you're designed to be, So for me, it's like, I'm a son, right? So what's the reality of the son of the king, okay? The son of the king gets the keys to the kingdom because he's the son. That's it. Like, he's not the right-hand man. He's not the general. He's not the number one appointed advisor. He's the son. And so because I'm the son, or the daughter, right, in this case, or if you're a female listening, that you get the keys to the whole kingdom. It's not because of anything that you've done. It's because of who you are, and you are the son. And the son gets the robe. He gets the ring on his finger. He gets the keys to the entire kingdom. And that right there, for me, knowing who I am at that level, then builds my confidence and my authority, right? To then come out and do interviews or sales calls, or lead a team of people over Valentine's Day, or whatever it is I'm doing.
Damn, that's fire. That's some gold. What advice would you give someone that goes through the practice of knowing themselves and they want to then modify, adjust, and grow themselves?
Yeah. Well, first off, if you want to reach out, if you want to say you're with Motivation Everything, I'm happy to do just like a personality assessment, no charge or anything like that. It's just something I do for my clients. I'd be happy to do it for you. So drop me a line on Facebook and I'll send you a free deal. But from that, it's like a matter of, you just have to be honest with yourself. You have to look at yourself and go, okay, what am I good at? Number one, right? Because that rolls into affirmations and self-talk and all the things that you do on a regular basis to be able to take yourself forward, right? But then the other part of it is like, what am I not the best at, right? How would I need to adjust, or maybe not necessarily adjust? Who do I need to hire, right, to fill the gap? I don't necessarily need to know all of the answers, but I need to have the people that are around me to, help me fill the gap.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. It's so true. And I think that the gap personally, I believe, can always be filled if one wants it bad enough and they're willing to have the humility. You talked earlier into like, your strength can be your weakness and your weakness can be your strength. And that's a powerful statement. I've seen people that are naturally gifted at speaking to people. I wasn't naturally gifted with speaking to people. I was terrified of public speaking. I had a traumatic experience in high school that I had to go speak in front of a class in English, and I forgot about it, and I got called up and they made me do the project, and I got red-faced, sweaty palmed. There was a girl in the room that I was talking to that I liked, and I like choked up, and it was like the worst moment of my life. I went down to my desk and I sat down and I put, my head between my arms, defeated. And I went home that night and I looked at myself in the mirror, knowing that was a weakness I had. And I guess it took that traumatic experience for me to develop the why to this will never happen to me ever again. And I've noticed a trend with people. I've heard many stories like mine, and people have created this weakness into their greatest strength. Yeah. You can argue my speaking ability is my greatest strength. I'm building my entire business off of it. I never would have done that if I hadn't filled that gap. But I also could say it goes the opposite. I've seen very talented men and women, great at speaking, talk pretty, look pretty, and they take it for granted.
Yeah.
And then they never actually do anything worthwhile with it.
Totally.
So I'm just curious your thoughts on that, man.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I think that just like you, we all have our own little story, and that's what's so powerful about today's world is that you can put out a video, or you can, connect with people in a way never like before, and be able to share your story or be able to connect with people on their story. But we all have that moment where we were defeated, or maybe just didn't have enough to get there. So for me, those moments, like what you just described, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but when I was in high school, man, my first car, I had to borrow money from the bank at 16 to buy my first car, right? My grandmother co-signed on a $1,500 car. I had no money, right? And I'm sure a lot of people didn't even have a car. So there's probably people worse case scenario than me, right? But I had to do that. And then in order to pay the note on the $1,500, I had to work at Sonic. And I literally did not have enough money to pay that, drive to school, and drive to work. Like I was like on empty, getting to work to get the paycheck just to fill it up so that I could pay the payment and go back to school and go back to work. It was like this circle of like, what in the world? And then I would get into a friend's car and they had a brand new Mustang and a full tank of gas. It wasn't the Mustang that offended me. It was dang it, they have a full tank of gas, and I freaking couldn't buy any gas. And for me, as little as that was at 16, I'm not going to ever get to a place where I'm worried about gas or so not in my brain that I can't break out of that cycle and put my skill sets to a better work than what I was working, or whatever the solution is to that problem, So we all have that moment, is my point, where we're like, ugh. And we either grow from that and press forward. Of course, we still have moments like that after that. I've got plenty of moments after that, that I could share with you. But that was the first thing we can really hold on to, is like, oh man, it was such a moment. Now, the thing to be careful in that is, am I striving out of that because I was jealous of my friend or I didn't say his car, but his tank of gas, was I jealous of the situation? Because we can do that online, right? We can look at people's Facebook and we can see their cars that they're driving and the trips that their family are taking, and that can wreck us, right? So we have to be able to go to the mirror. I didn't say go to a course or go to, a group. I said go to the mirror and look at your strengths and weaknesses. Be honest with yourself, and of course, if you have faith, then do that with your maker as well. But, go to the mirror and determine what it is that you've got. What's in the bag? What can you grow that's in the bag? What's in the bag that's just a dead weight? What's that can't be used? Get rid of the dead weight and go. Like, go to action. To your point from earlier, just start doing. And if you're beyond that point where you've put into action and you're creating teams, now it's about duplication. It's about, like for me in my businesses, I've always been like, how can I create an opportunity for this employee to make more money, or for them to grow, or for them to have a life that they've never had, right? Because for me, it's like, oh man, I remember the moments just like that in my life. And for me to be able to create an opportunity for you to overcome that, not just me, but for you and for you and for you, that can fill the passion bucket as well, for sure.
What I heard you say there, one thing that stood out to me is, how can I create an opportunity? And it's cool when you get to the point that you're at now where you can create that opportunity for others, right? Like, how can I create an opportunity for someone that works under me to make more money? That's powerful. I think one step before that is when you're having that conversation in the mirror and you want to grow, you become clear with who you are, you accept who you are, you have the humility to say, man, These are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. This is my baggage. Then asking that question you just said to yourself, how can I create the opportunity to get better? Totally. And I just pulled that out of that as you were saying that. I was like, man, that's so strong. You know, how did Chaz create the opportunity? Dude, you went in sales much like myself at a very young age. You hustled, man. You worked your butt off. You climbed up the ladder, and now you're in a position where your life is a lot different than that high school 16-year-old that was on E every single day. And it's just cool, man. It blows my mind. You created opportunities for yourself that you put your heart and soul into, which leveraged and got you to where you're at now. And knowing you will continue to do that, probably much like me to the day we leave this world. So I guess to viewers, for everyone that watches this Motivation Everything show, ask yourself that, guys. I really want you guys to ask yourself that question tonight. You know, how can I create the opportunity for myself to get where I want to go?
Right.
I thought that was powerful.
Yeah, man. No, it's good. You have to be able to. I think one of the important note in there too, because when you go to the mirror and you take a look at what's in the bag, right? It's really, really easy, depending upon your circumstances and where you are, your circumstances or the things that were dead weight in the bag, they can oftentimes seem daunting or overwhelming or something that you can't get out of, right? Even if we're just talking about your own mindset or your own family, you know, like if you haven't had a friend or a family member tell you that you're reaching too high or you're trying to, you know, become someone that you can't be, then you haven't really gotten very far down the success track, because those people are right there in your house probably, you know, and if not, then they're real close in your friendships and or your church, you know, like that's just the honest truth. And so you have to experience those things, but then not allow that to be your truth, right? That's not your truth. That's their opinion. That's their thought. That's them justifying their own position, right? Or even if you never even get to that and you're looking at your own circumstances and you're thinking, well, I can't get out of this because whatever. You're female, not male. You're, you know, young and not old. I almost didn't close on my very first business because the landlord didn't want to sign the lease with me because I was only 24 years old. Like here I am buying a $500,000 business and the dude's worried about rent. It's the same business that's been paying you rent the last 6 years. It was the fact that I was 24. He wasn't certain, right? And so I had to then make him certain, right? I had to do things to make sure that he knew that, like, bro, like paying rent, like I got you. Don't worry. Like, you know, get on the Wolf train, you know? So we all have
get on the Wolf train. I love that.
we got to look at those things. For me, in that example, to kind of tie all this together, is that it was youth. I was being looked at in a certain way because of my youth, and that was a hurdle. It was something that I could have seen as a bad thing, like, oh, I'm too young. Maybe I don't have the experience to be able to go get an SBA loan to get my first business. Like, how did you do that at 24 years old? Well, I had to convince the bank of a lot of stuff. And then I had to do it again for the second one and again for the third one. You know, like that's just the way that it goes. So when you're looking in the mirror, you have to identify those things as possible, like negatives or the things that are holding you back, but it's not your truth. You have to be able to speak to yourself about being a son or a daughter or the things that the Lord has for you or where you're going. So that way you can talk about that person. I can talk about that Chaz. I can talk about that person who's leaving a legacy for his grandchildren, and not the guy that's like, ooh, I really ride the line of arrogance or whatever that thing is that's in your bag that's holding you back. You know what I mean?
That's powerful, man. So as we wrap things up here, we're top of the hour. You know, I like to always like kind of end on, you know, if there was one last gold nugget that Chaz Wolfe could leave for all of us, for anyone that's live with us right now and anybody that watches the replay, anything, man, you have free reign. What is that gold nugget that you're going to drop for us?
Ooh, so many things just flushed into my brain like all at once. And so I'm trying to folder them. So I'm gonna go with the very first thing that came to my brain. I read a book, I can't remember when, long time ago. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. And what I got from that book was that you always pay yourself first. Always pay yourself first. And that's not a like a selfish thing. That's not a like you don't take care of your employees, you don't take care of your business, because all of my employees know, like I'm not, super open with like books and stuff, but they know that like I haven't taken a salary from certain businesses so that I could keep growing and building and building. I do other things to make money so that way my franchises can just keep, developing, right? But you have to have this concept of paying yourself first. And for me, it wasn't so much necessarily the business. It was in everything that you do. I need to put my family, my time, my personal time, whether it be my reading time in the morning or whether it be the first $10 that I earn out of the 100. It's a concept of pay yourself first, not just with money, but like take care of yourself, take care of you, like not in a selfish way. I'm really trying to make that clear. It's the more healthy you can better impact other people.
Can't pour from an empty cup.
Can't pour from an empty cup. Now, out of the book, it talks about finances. It talks about you paying yourself a minimum of 10% first, before you pay taxes, before you pay this, before you pay your debts, before you do any of that. You pay yourself first, and your purse, as it talks about, grows over time, and you compound it, and you put it into investments, and then that then builds legacy. But that same concept can be applied to every area of life. Pay yourself first.
Boom. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Drop mic moment. Chaz, this has been an incredible interview, man. I first of all just want to thank you on behalf of Motivation Everything and everyone that gets the opportunity to watch this, and it's going to be on a podcast in the future and listen to it. That just thank you, man. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the value that you bring. We really appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. And the feeling is mutual. That you guys bring motivation. I'm obviously in the group. I see your guys' posts all the time. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for even having this opportunity. I get as much out of these as listeners, and so thank you for giving that opportunity to me as well to grow.
Absolutely. So in closing, how can people find Chaz Wolfe? Where can we connect with you at?
Yeah, man. Facebook, LinkedIn, Chaz Wolfe, ChazWolfe. Of course, you can go to chazwolfe.com. That's my website. Whether you're interested in sales training, I've got one-on-one coaching. If you're a business owner, you're looking to grow to the next level and you want systems and team development, and you're in chaos and not have that anymore. You want to love your business and your life again. That's why you reach out to me, and I want to be able to help you with that. So love to talk to those people.
I love it. Well, guys, we're wrapping up tonight. This is the end of our expert interview here with Chaz. Guys, be sure to tune in next week, 7 p.m., where I bring another expert in front of all of you live. How awesome is this? And interview them. And I hope all of you have a wonderful night. It's Cody with Motivation Everything, and we appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you, man.